with me, your man, Louis T. Welcome to Lockdown Coverage, week number 2 in the National Football League. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of what I saw in week 2's action, and I'll go game by game as I knock them down. And so we'll start with the games I was able to get to look at yesterday and early on today. And so we start with the 1 o'clock game, Buffalo Bills at the New York Giants. I was watching this game simultaneously with the Redskins and the Cowboys game. So this was a game that I kind of thought it was going to go the way that it did go. And that was the Bills were going to settle in, and they had the dreaded back-to-back road games at the same stadium versus two different opponents. Jets in week 1, followed that up with Giants in week 2. So they actually had the whole feel of being in that road environment, but feeling like it wasn't that strange. They talked about how the Bills kept a lot of their equipment there because they knew they were coming back. They stayed in the same hotel. Guys stayed in the same rooms, that sort of thing. So it made it a lot easier of a transition, and it's not like they had to go that far. I mean, it wasn't right up the street, but it wasn't that far of travel. It's not like they had to travel all the way to the West Coast or anything. So I felt like the Bills were in a great position to get their second win in a row. I didn't expect them to win last week, and when they were down 16-0, I thought that was a pretty daunting task to overcome in the fourth quarter. 17 unanswered points later, they get the win 17-16 last week. And I thought they were really feeling good about themselves after that come from behind victory. They came out a little flat defensively. And it's the same exact thing the Giants did in week 1 versus the Cowboys. First possession, march it right down the field, look impressive in doing so, and then pretty much do nothing there after the remainder of the game. Saquon Barkley eclipsed 100 yards rushing like he did last week, but really it was to no avail. It didn't really do anything in terms of impacting the game, his yards. And so the Bills dominated this football game, and at one point reeled off 21 unanswered points. Probably the most impressive thing I saw from this game, and one of my biggest takeaways. One, the Bills defensively are really good, but we already knew that. We're going to find out just how good when they start playing better competition. I don't think the barometer that they faced in the first 2 weeks is a good enough one. Facing the two New Jersey teams isn't a good enough barometer to figure out if they're really, really good or if they're just a solid defense this year. But they did what they were supposed to do in those two games, holding those two very pedestrian offenses under 20 points. And in both cases, holding them under 17 points. So they've done a really good job of giving their offense a chance to win these ball games. They picked off Eli Manning twice in this football game, harassed him, forced him to get rid of the football quicker than he wanted to. They also were able to, I thought, for the most part, bottle up Saquon Barkley again. Some big runs in there, going to inflate that total. But for the most part, a lot of 3 and 1 and 2 yard runs. And then, of course, Barkley's capable of the 55-yarder, which is going to inflate those numbers. But thought they held him in check. And also didn't allow him to hurt them in the pass game, which we know he can do as well. So I thought they did a really good job of taking away what the Giants wanted to do, which is get Saquon Barkley involved. They don't have any targets really to get the football to. No Sterling Shepard in this football game. He was dealing with a concussion. So they were really down to their final weapons, and the Bills were hitting. There was a hit down the sidelines. I want to say it was delivered by Jordan Poyer. It might have been Poyer. It might have been Micah Hyde. I think it was Poyer. But either way, a vicious shot to Benny Fowler down the sideline. He drops the football and leads the game after the hit. It was a clean hit right on his shoulder. Bow! Ball came out. Incomplete pass, and it was a third down. And Aldrick Rosas missed a field goal, which is so rare for him. I can't even recall the last time he missed a kick. So nothing really went right for the Giants. And I thought a lot of that was due to the Bills' pressure that they put on the Giants, not only from a defensive standpoint, but from an offensive standpoint. As I mentioned, 21 unanswered points, 14 coming in the second quarter. I think it was 7 in the first quarter, 14 in the second quarter to take a 21-7 lead into halftime. And let me get back to my most impressive thing that I saw. Josh Allen, his ability to escape out of the pocket, it's uncanny. watching him and Jacoby Brissett in week 2 were eye-opening experiences. Both of those guys had this Houdini-like factor to them, sort of like Carson Wentz. When you watch them and they just find a way to slither their way out of trouble, it seems like they're going to get bottled up, and somehow they come out the other side and are in a position to make a play. And with Allen, more so than Brissett, probably more towards the Carson Wentz end of the spectrum, you can get a ridiculous throw after that escape. And Allen's arm is so strong, and you see it on some of these throws when he's on the move. We saw that at Wyoming. We knew what he was capable of, but he's fun to watch, is Josh Allen. Not always going to be pretty with him, and he's going to make some mistakes that make you shake your head, but at the end of the day, his athleticism gives the Bills a chance every single week. Every week they're going to be dangerous because Josh Allen is so tough to contain in the pocket. Now, he's going to take some sacks, and he's going to fumble some footballs, as he did in week 1, and he took some bad sacks in this game. But I'd rather him take the sack as long as he doesn't fumble than try to do something ill-advised and make a mistake and turn it over, especially when the defense is playing as good as they've been playing. And speaking of guys playing really well, Devin Singletary, I'm waiting for the day that the Bills acknowledge that this man needs starter carries. They're still featuring Forever Frank right now, but Devin Singletary, every time he touches the ball, it seems like something big could happen. I love this guy. You know how I feel about him. He had some big runs, including a touchdown run. Almost had another touchdown run later in the game that set up a touchdown run for one of the other backs. This guy is dynamic, and he can touch it in the run game, in the pass game. He's electric. He needs more touches, and I think they're going to work him towards that. They didn't want to just put too much on his plate right off the bat, but I think this guy has a chance to be a true difference maker, and I think they need to give him more touches. But it was good to see them spread the football around at the receiver position. I love Cole Beasley. I thought that was one of their biggest acquisitions. John Brown, not too far behind in terms of big acquisitions for them. Both of those guys were outstanding in this football game. Isaiah McKenzie chipped in, had a touchdown grab as well. So they did so many good things this offseason, and you're starting to see it pay dividends. Now, again, Jets and Giants in the first 2 weeks, respectively. Still don't really know how good the Bills are, but they did what they were supposed to do, which is win those football games. I was impressed with them going into New York and finding a way to win this football game, and I thought they were the better team, and they proved it 28-14. If you're the Giants, there are not many good takeaways from this football game. The word out on the street is that, and I knew this was going to happen sooner rather than later, especially after the preseason that Daniel Jones turned in. It was only a matter of time before Eli Manning, you're not impressed. And at this point of his career, you don't feel like there's much to be had by continuing to play Eli Manning. He's not the future. I don't even think he'll be here past this season. So if you're the Giants, you're not a good football team. You don't have a ton of talent. If you're going to lose football games, you might as well do it with Daniel Jones in the lineup. And I can tell you this much. He gives you a better chance to win than Eli does, because I just talked about Josh Allen and his athleticism. Well, Daniel Jones has the same exact thing. So he has the ability to use his legs where Eli is not going anywhere, and teams know that. So I think the Giants are in a position now where you're at 0-2, season's trending in the wrong direction. You don't have enough talent to overcome an immobile quarterback. You need a guy that can extend plays and give guys a chance to uncover, even if they're covered on a play, and extend plays with his legs, and on 3rd and 6 can run for 7, unlike Eli Manning, who refuses to use his legs and doesn't really have the ability to do it at this point of his career anyhow, and never really did. So I think the Giants are now in a position, you've heard their coach, Pat Shurmur, pretty much be non-committal on Eli Manning starting in week 3. We'll see what happens. If you're non-committal now, even if Eli gets the nod, the leash is extremely short. You could see an in-game change in week 3 if Eli is to get the nod. Or they may just go with Daniel Jones in week 3 and not look back. Either way, Eli Manning's run in New York is slowly but surely coming to an end, and it may be sooner rather than later. This defense isn't very good. All right, they're solid, but they're not they're not going to win them ball games. You're going to have to score points if you're the Giants because your defense isn't going to hold teams to 20 points or less. You're going to give up points week in and week out. You're going to have to score to be in ball games. And the only way you're probably going to do that is to get healthy, number one, at the receiver position, and Golden Tate's return in week 5 will help. Getting Sterling Shepard back off the concussion will help. But again, you need Daniel Jones out there and his mobility. Again, we don't know how good he's going to be. It's one thing to carve up teams in the preseason when it doesn't matter. It's another thing when teams are game planning to stop you. We'll see what happens with Daniel Jones once he gets an opportunity. But the bottom line is you're not going to win with Eli Manning, and you're not going to win with this defense with Eli Manning. So a change needs to come, and I think we're going to see that here sooner rather than later. That's my breakdown of the Bills at the Giants. Bills get the win 28-14, go to 2-0 on the season. Meanwhile, the Giants drop to 0-2, and changes are coming very, very shortly. You move on to the next contest. This was a rematch of the NFC Championship game. Obviously, the controversy that led to all the rule changes in the offseason. Rams hosting this time the Saints. These two teams met twice last year, both times in New Orleans. Both of those contests, very close ball games. The one in the regular season was a shootout, won by the Saints. The one in the playoffs was a close game, hotly debated topic of discussion. Obviously, the no call on Nickel Roby-Coleman on the no pass interference call, which led to an overtime loss to the Rams, and the Rams going to the Super Bowl. So this was the well-awaited, anticipated rematch between these two teams. And anticlimactic, especially really the start to the game was anticlimactic. No points really scored by either team. It was 3-3 for much of the first half. I think we might have even went into halftime at 6-6. Then the injury to Drew Brees really marred the end of the first half. Teddy Bridgewater had to come in, and we didn't know the extent of the injury until we saw Drew Brees try to go over and pick up a football and couldn't grip it. At that point, you knew this was pretty serious. He did not return into the ball game. Bridgewater was ineffective, as you would expect, a guy not taking any first-team reps, having not played since the preseason, and really, again, playing against marginal talent at best during the preseason. You had to know that this Rams defense was licking their chops once Bridgewater came in. And I thought Bridgewater did some solid things, but Teddy Bridgewater is a dink and dunker. He's a guy that's going to throw a lot of underneath stuff, not really going to stretch the football field vertically. And you could say, well, Drew Brees was doing the same thing, but he was doing it at a much higher level than that of Teddy Bridgewater, and of course, at a much faster rate. Okay, it's one thing to check it down to the back. It's another thing to check it down to the back in timing and rhythm of the play. Okay, if you check it down late, guess what those backers get to do? Come up and rally and tackle. You check it down in timing and rhythm, they're dropping into they're getting into their depth in their drops, and all of a sudden there's 10 yards of space. You dump it down, and now it's a first down. It's a difference with Drew Brees versus a Teddy Bridgewater. Either way, ball accuracy, all of those things, you saw that there's going to be a slight difference with Teddy Bridgewater versus Drew Brees. And they're going to have a week or two where they got to get acclimated to this change, and they're going to have to start figuring out creative ways to score points, because this defense, I think, is going to be good enough to keep them in ball games. Again, they were in this game. There was another controversial call. Sean Payton was pissed off about it at the end of the first half. Rams were on the move in the red zone. Jared Goff is hit as his arm is looking to go forward. They ruled it as an incomplete pass on the field, went back to replay, and it was determined that it was a fumble. He did fumble the football, and it was scooped up by the Saints, run in for a touchdown. Cam Jordan was the one to scoop it up, run about 80 yards for a touchdown. But unfortunately, it was ruled incomplete. They went to the monitor and realized that it was a mistake, changed it to a fumble recovered by the Saints, but that would have been a touchdown had it been ruled fumble on the field. So they felt like they had been spurned once again by the officials. Sean Payton even made the comment of, I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of being on the wrong end of these mishaps by the officials. But that's no here nor there. They weren't going to win that football game, whether that was ruled a fumble or not. They just didn't have enough bullets in the gun with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, despite the defense playing well for about 3 quarters, maybe 2.5 quarters. Then the wheels started to fall off, The Rams started to have some success. Jared Goff started to move the football. Todd Gurley started to run the football, and all of a sudden, with the inability of the Saints to score, the Rams really didn't feel any threat nor pressure. Offensively, you can see they started to get into a little bit of a rhythm. Cooks with a big catch early in the game to set up a field goal. Then you had a big catch and run by Cooper Kupp that set up a touchdown. And as I mentioned, Gurley started to get going on the ground, and all of a sudden the game kind of got away from the Saints as the Rams ran away and hid with this football game. And what you'll find with the Saints moving forward, Breeze is going to be out for at least 6 weeks with the thumb injury. They're going to have to figure some things out. And you're talking about 6 to 8 weeks. Right now, if you're the Saints, you've got some big games coming up. And I was looking at the schedule of teams coming up, and it's rough. They've got some big ones, including a Sunday night matchup in Week 4 versus the Dallas Cowboys. That was going to be one of those circle on the calendar games. Now, all of a sudden, with the Cowboys playing as good as they are and the Saints having Teddy Bridgewater, that's going to be a tough ask of this Saints football team. So they got to try to steady the ship. This is why they brought Teddy Bridgewater back. This is why they made him the highest paid backup quarterback in the league for situations like this. They didn't anticipate this happening because Drew Brees, much like Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning and some of these other veteran quarterbacks, they don't get hurt. But in the event that something were to go awry, and we've found this occasion right now, you needed a guy that could come in and steady the ship. This is why you kept Teddy Bridgewater on the roster. Now it's time for him to prove his worth. We'll see if he's able to do that with this team, because they need him to step up and be much better than he was in Week 2 versus the Rams. Rams get the victory, and they go to 2-0 on the season. Meanwhile, the Saints drop to 1-1. And that division is wide open right now. I talked about it last night during the Sunday Night Football telecast with the Falcons' victory, that this division is wide open with the Panthers struggling at 0-2, and now Breeze down for at least half of the season. You look at this division, the Bucks are 1-1 right now, the Falcons are 1-1, the Saints are 1-1. Don't count out Carolina at 0-2, although if Cam's not right, which it doesn't seem he is, I can't see them being able to make any noise in that division. But it's wide open in the NFC South all of a sudden. And if you're a team like Atlanta or Tampa, you got to be licking your chops at this opportunity to really gain some ground and really put some distance between yourself and New Orleans for the time that Drew Brees is out, and make it such a daunting task for him when he does come back to try to dig the Saints out of a hole potentially if Bridgewater isn't able to steady the ship. Meanwhile, for the Rams, this is a big win for you. You would have liked it to have come against Drew Brees and the Saints at full strength, but you'll take it any way you can get it. It really doesn't matter, especially during the regular season. You take them any way you can get it. Any breaks you can get that can come your way, you take those as well in stride. And you got a big break in this game. You took advantage of it. You get the win, and you get to 2-0 on the season. And don't look now, but the 49ers also 2-0, and the Seahawks also 2-0. So all of a sudden, this division starting off really, really tough. And it's going to be a fun division to watch unfold over the life of this season. So we move on to the next game. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Detroit Lions. This was a game that I thought would go exactly the way that it went. I had a feeling there would be a letdown here for the Chargers. Wasn't all that impressed with them. Remember, I was the one that said that they weren't going to be a playoff team this year, that they were going to be an 8-8 ball club. And these are the types of games they lose when you're going to go 8-8. Last year, these were the types of games they found a way to win. And that's how you get to 12-4. Well, if you're going to end up 8-8, you go on the road and you lose to Detroit. That's why I thought they were going to lose this football game, and they did exactly what I thought they were going to do. But we're going to start with the team that was victorious in this game, in the Detroit Lions. I'm going to read off from my notes. First thing I noticed is that the Lions want to be physical this season. I think Matt Patricia is trying to establish an identity in Detroit, one that goes away from Matthew Stafford throwing it 500 times a season and having him kind of allow the run game to settle everything down offensively, not put a lot of pressure on this defense because you're going 3 and out because Stafford is throwing it 3 straight times and you're not getting any production out of your running backs, especially when you got guys like Kerryon Johnson, Ty Johnson, J.D. McKissick is a new acquisition that I like, and also C.J. Anderson. They ran the football a ton in this football game, and they are going play action fake off of it. So you see a strong influence of Matt Patricia there, where hey, we're gonna run the football, we're gonna be a physical football team, and we're going to go play action fake and take shots down the field off of the run game. And that's a change for the Lions, a team that has traditionally put the offensive burden on the shoulders of Matthew Stafford and said, hey, big boy, go win us a football game. They're going to allow the run game to eat up time of possession, give the defense a break and a rest, and also allow them to set up shots down the field via play action fake. So that's a little bit of a change. And this is an offensive line that I think has the ability to be physical. Kerryon Johnson scores on a screen in this game, and Frank Ragnow gets not one, but two big blocks on that play, including the kickout block where he destroys a secondary member of the Chargers and allows Kerryon Johnson to go off to the races for a big touchdown early in this ball game. So you see the physicality for the Lions. This is a change for them. They're a different team in the trenches this season, as they're going to be a tough team that's going to be in ball games. Speaking of which, my next note that I took was this defense is going to be good enough to keep them in ball games this season. My question for them is, are they going to be able to score enough points? That's the problem I have with the Lions. They didn't score enough last week, even though they were up big and should have beat the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona last week. But they made too many mistakes on special teams last week to come out victorious. And this week, they got away with one. A lot of mistakes made on both parts. All right, Stafford threw some interceptions in this game. You missed a field goal and an extra point. They missed 2 field goals in this game. Rivers threw a back-breaking interception late in the ball game. So a lot of mistakes by both teams in this ball game, but you got away with one here because 13 points generally not going to be enough to win you football games in this league very often. But again, a really solid defensive performance by your squad gave you an opportunity to come out of this game victorious. And so I think watching them the first couple of weeks, this defense is going to be good enough to keep them in games. It's not an elite unit, but it's a very good unit that's going to be hovering around that top 10 area. It wouldn't shock me if they penetrated the top 10 this year because they've got that kind of consistent unit, if they're healthy, that they're going to be in ball games. I just don't know if they're going to be able to score enough points to win those ball games. We will see. Big play Slay versus KA13. Man, was that fun to watch all day long. That was a matchup that I just enjoyed thoroughly. Those guys were going at one another, and they both had their fair shares of victories in those individual battles. Early on, Keenan Allen was getting the best of Slay, but Slay got the last laugh as he lived up to his moniker of Big Play Slay, getting the big interception that put this game essentially away for the Detroit Lions and turned away the Chargers from at least a game-tying field goal opportunity, which was not going to be a guaranteed thing because they had already missed 2 earlier in the ball game. But huge play by Slay late to turn the Chargers away. But Allen was giving him work throughout the game as well. It was just fun back and forth. Slay with a knockdown, Allen with a catch. It was just fun seeing 2 of the better players at their respective positions going at it in a heavyweight matchup. That was a lot of fun to watch. But the kicking game was abysmal this game. And normally you've got a steady foot kicking the ball for you. And Matt Prater. Prater's got one of the biggest legs in the league. So you're usually never out of field goal range. Once you pass midfield, you're generally in his range, especially if you're inside. But he was off in this game, missed an extra point, missed a field goal. And those points could have cost you. You easily could have lost this football game. 17-13, 16-13. And those would have been the points that would have cost you this ball game. But luckily enough for you, they had their own fair share of issues and kicking woes and turnovers and things that allowed you to win this football game 13-10 as we flip it to the side of the Chargers in this game. I got flashbacks of 2016 and 2017 in the kicking game with the 2 missed field goals. Now, I'm not going to kill you for that because your kicker is out right now, and Michael Badgley. And so once he comes back, I will then assess the kicking game. If he's as good as he was for you last year, then this won't be a problem moving forward. Unfortunately for you, it would have already cost you a game by then. But if he's okay when he comes back and he's doing what he did and picking up where he left off from last year, this won't be an issue, something that you have to dwell on. But if these kicking woes continue once he gets back, it's back to the same old Chargers that won't find ways to win, but instead find ways to lose, which is what I was counting on this year when I said you were going to go 8-8. And so far, you're proving me right with the first two games. Again, you found a way to hold on versus the Colts, but that game should have never even went to overtime. But you found a way to allow them back into the game, but you were able to win the toss and take it down the field. Had they won the toss, I think you lose that football game. So luck of the draw there. Here, you weren't as lucky as you made too many mistakes to win. I got a double O to offer up here, and I don't like doing these very often, but when they are necessary, I make sure that I give them out. So, okay, I was wrong about Austin Eckler. Dude's a baller, all right? Austin Eckler's a hell of a football player, and his ability to catch it out of the backfield is what I think separates him from your average run-of-the-mill backup running back in this league. His ability to be able to run it in between the tackles. They use him as a physical first and second down back. All right, that touchdown from the one where he leapt from the 3-yard line, thing of beauty. That's how you do it, okay? And then his ability, a possession or two later, to split out wide and run a go ball up the sideline, essentially, and beat the backer up the sideline. I mean, this guy is multifaceted. There's a reason why in the first two games of the season, first 5 quarters of the season, the man already had 4 touchdowns to his name. This is a guy that if you're in fantasy, again, Austin Eckler is a guy you need to add. If he's available in your league, Austin Eckler is a guy that shouldn't be available because this guy's going to score and score very often if he's healthy for this Chargers football team. And I must admit, I was wrong about Austin Eckler. He is a good football player. But at the end of the day, we could talk about the missed kicks. We can talk about the Lions defense, and they were good in this football game. We could talk about a lot of things. We could talk about this Chargers defense, and I put down in my notes, this was a good enough defensive performance to get you a road win. Anytime you hold a team to 13 points in this league, you're supposed to win. Not 5 out of 10, not 7 out of 10, not 9 out of 10. You hold a team to 13 points in this league, you're supposed to win 10 times out of 10, period. Okay, if you don't, that means you have a severe problem, or at least in that particular game, you had a severe problem on the offensive side of the football. And the Chargers did. You can blame the kicker if you want. How about you cap off those possessions with touchdowns and not settle for field goals? All right, yes, you would like those possessions to turn into points. You get in the scoring range, you need your kicker to put it through the uprights. I totally get it and understand that. Scott wasn't his best. He was good in week 1. He wasn't in week 2. It is what it is. Bottom line is, you got all the way down the field late in the ball game with a chance to, at worst, attempt a field goal to tie this game up. But in typical Philly Rivers fashion, Philip giveth, Philip taketh away. That was a terrible throw in the corner of the end zone to Keenan Allen. He was double covered. There was a safety coming over the top, and there was Darius Slay underneath. There was nowhere to fit that football. You cannot force that ball in that spot at that juncture of the game, but that's Philip Rivers, the gunslinger that he is. Never shy, never bashful to take a shot, even when it's not available. And it came back to haunt you in this game. That's one that if you look back and you end up missing the postseason by a game, there'll be other close games that you're going to be involved in because that's what you do. You play close ball games and you either pull them out or you don't. But if you look back and you're 9-7 and you missed the postseason by a game, this is one of those games you'll look back on and say, we had no business losing this football game. We give up 13 on the road. We don't score a single point in the second half. We lose 13-10. We probably don't deserve to go to the postseason because we should have won that football game. And you had every opportunity to take this game from the Lions. They were giving it to you, and you refused to accept the gift. You lose this football game 13-10, drop to 1-1 on the season. Meanwhile, for the Lions, They're still undefeated. I saw a Lions fan, my man, Phenomenon, likely Phenomenon, said, "Hey man, we still undefeated." And I had to think about it. It didn't register initially. I'm like, "You undefeated? Y'all didn't win last week." And then I thought, well, you didn't lose last week either. So he's right. Technically, at 1-0-1, they're still undefeated on the Detroit Lions. And so we'll see what they're able to do next week. But that's a big win for them at home versus the Chargers. And now they're feeling good about themselves heading into week number 3. And finally, we wrap up this first edition of Lockdown Coverage. Got a couple more coming at you guys down the pipeline. Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans, AFC South family business. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's AFC South family business. And so this is business that usually is handled by the Indianapolis Colts. The Titans, the one team in the division that they are scared shitless of, it's these Indianapolis Colts. The last 16 times these teams have played, the Colts are 14-2. And you thought, and I know a lot of Titans fans were like, Andrew Luck, carry your ass, good riddance. Now we can change our fortunes versus these stinking ass Colts. Not so fast, my friends. I've been telling everybody that would listen about Jacoby Brissett that this guy is legit and he's going to give them a shot not only in this division, all right, he's going to give them a shot in the conference. The Colts have a good enough roster to compete with some of the better teams in that conference as long as Jacoby Brissett continues to mature. He's going to get a chance to play. And I think with this offense, with all the weaponry around him, this isn't like 2017 when he played and everybody wanted to knock him when I thought he actually played really well for his first time getting a true chance to start. There wasn't a lot of talent. If you remember, that roster was horrible, all right? Now you fast forward 2 years into the future and into present day, and this roster is vastly improved. He is a better quarterback, and this is a better system under Frank Reich for him. I just think that this is a situation that you can't count the Colts out. And so let's get into this game. Jacoby Brissett is where we're going to start because in my notes I put Jacoby Brissett is game. All right, that fumble that he had was brutal, okay? In this game where he's trying to pull the football back after pump faking and the ball slips out of his hand and is recovered by the Titans. But his ability to escape the pocket and elude pressure, ridiculous. Some of those escapes, I mean, it was joystick-esque. It looked like a video game where you're like, there's no way he's getting out of harm's way here. There were a couple of Michael Vick type moves in the pocket, all right? Obviously, Jacoby Brissett is no Michael Vick, but there were some Michael Vick-like agility type moves in the pocket to evade rushers and get outside the pocket and make things happen either with his arm or his leg. There were a couple of dynamite plays by Jacoby Brissett getting out of harm's way. That guy is amazing, man. I love watching him play. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And again, not afraid to use his legs to extend plays. And if he's got to run, he's not afraid to do that either. But his ability to extend plays with his legs and escape pressure, he's right up there with some of the best in the game right now. Patrick Mahomes. I just talked about Josh Allen's ability to elude pressure in the pocket. You throw Jacoby Brissett in that mix as well, man. Carson Wentz, all of those guys are elite when it comes to avoiding sacks and pressures. Jacoby Brissett is right in that mix with these guys. And if you watch them on Sunday, you know exactly why. I love the Colts collection of young backs, man. I've said this before. All right, that's something that I've really thought that they had an excellent draft in 2018 when they got Marlon Mack and they got Jordan Wilkins. I think Marlon Mack was 17 and Hines and Wilkins were 2018. And I told you I loved that collection of backs. I said they've revamped their running back position and it's now it went from a big time weakness with Forever Frank and some of the other guys you had, Robert Turbin and all those guys you had in your backfield, to now an overwhelming strength for you. And in any given week, it could be either one of those guys. It could be Marlon Mack was the guy last week against the Chargers that gave you a shot. Huge second half. All right, massive fourth quarter for him. Well over 100 yards rushing in that game. It could be Naheem Hines and his ability to catch it out of the backfield. That could be your saving grace one week. And in this particular game, it was Jordan Wilkins who was a big part of the comeback and the win here. A big run late in this ball game to set up the game-winning score. He was outstanding in this football game, was Jordan Wilkins. In his limited amount of touches, he made the most of them. I always told you I thought that Jordan Wilkins was going to be a really good back for you. He reminds me a lot of Matt Forte with the way that he runs and his size. And this is a guy that is going to really prove out to be a quality alternative to Marlon Mack for you in this Colts backfield. And I think you've got a nice collection of young backs in Indianapolis. Paris Campbell is coming. All right, Paris Campbell is coming. He had a muffed kickoff that he picked up and still managed to get out to damn near the 30-yard line. All right, but even more impressive was his touchdown grab where he literally just ran past Adoree Jackson. I mean, Adoree Jackson isn't slow, and he smoked his ass on the over route and a beautiful touch pass by Jacoby Brissett to the back corner of the end zone, and Campbell able to get his feet in and score the touchdown. He made that look so easy, running right past Adoree Jackson effortlessly. This guy is coming, folks. And once he arrives, like seriously, gets it, teams are going to be in trouble because now you've got three, and I talked about this last week, three speedsters on this Colts offense that can hurt you from anywhere at the receiver position. And T.Y. Hilton, obviously, who had another touchdown in this game. As a matter of fact, he had the game winner. But T.Y. Hilton can get you at any time with his speed. Deion Kane is a guy you got to look out for. He had a pass interference that he drew early on in the game to set up the Titans' first scoring opportunity. And then, as I mentioned, Paris Campbell, a guy that is on his way making some big plays for this Colts offense. You know who else is on their way? Quincy Wilson is on his way on the defensive side. Took him a little bit longer than you would have liked, but he's starting to arrive, folks, and he looks damn good. He made a lot of plays in this game. He had a pass interference, but also had the game-winning knockaway as well. He's starting to come into his own. He's playing with an abundance of confidence. He looks like he's back at Florida once again in that same mindset of these guys don't want none. I can hold it down on my side of the football field. And so confidence is fleeting in this league. But once you got it and you know you can play in this league, then you go and you start making plays. And I think Quincy Wilson is getting to that point where he's starting to smell himself and feel like he belongs in the NFL after having his confidence taken from him by the last coaching staff. He's had it instilled back into him, and he's starting to play with an abundance of confidence. I love Frank Wright's decision to go for it on 4th and inches from his own 35 with 2 minutes and 24 seconds left in his ball game. That, to me, is winning football. He played for the win, not to lose. And I love the fact that he put all the pressure on the Titans to get a stop. And it was inches. So all I got to do is quarterback sneak. And we've watched games like the one on Thursday night where the Panthers try to get creative and cute on 4th and inches or 4th and 1. No need for that. All right. Take a page out of the New England Patriot book and just quarterback sneak it. And that's what they did. They moved the sticks. It forced the Titans to use the rest of their timeouts, and it also took away an additional 40 seconds because the Titans were only down to 2 timeouts at that point. So they got the benefit of the 2-minute warning in their 2 timeouts, but the Colts still ran a play after that allowed them to burn off another 40 seconds of the clock. And so instead of them getting the football back with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left in the fourth quarter, if the Colts would have decided to punt, they got it back with about 1 minute and 5 seconds left. Huge difference with no timeouts and having to go at least 50 yards to get in the true field goal range. I thought that was the difference in this football game. A huge call by Frank Wright. Scared money don't make money. And he rolled the dice and he was able to come out nice and help his team get the victory. And finally, on a sad note, the end is near for Adam Vinatieri. This is the 2nd consecutive week he struggled kicking the football. I think his confidence is starting to wane a bit. He hasn't dealt with this kind of adversity really throughout his entire career. He's had a couple of situations where, he might have missed a kick here, missed a kick there, but not like this. I think now it's starting to creep into his head. Am I done? Is this it? And once you get to that point, you probably are done. And so it wouldn't shock me if he came out today and said, I'm retiring, or the Colts brought in some kickers on Tuesday to try out to see if they find another guy, and then Vinatieri hangs it up. We'll see what happens. But you're probably one more bad week from Vinatieri saying, you know what, I'm done. He missed another extra point and another field goal in this game. It could have easily have cost the Indianapolis Colts this ball game, but luckily enough for him, the Titans had a missed field goal of their own and weren't able to capitalize on that opportunity. Speaking of which, you go to the Titans in this game. First thing first, Derrick Henry is a man. God damn, he's a grown-ass man. He is so tough to stop, and he's a lot of fun to watch because once he gets going, he's one of those guys, got to build up speed, but once you allow him to take about a good 3 steps, you're in trouble because now he's a battering ram. He's big, he's physical, and once he gets to top speed, man, I said this when he was drafted. I said, look, you say what you want about Derrick Henry. Not a lot of dudes in the SEC were catching him from behind. And in the NFL, same thing applies. Not a lot of people are catching this dude from behind. So once he builds up a full head of steam, it's hard to catch Derrick Henry. And they're really incorporating him more so in the pass game than they have in the past. And so he's starting to really make his presence felt there as well. We saw it in week 1 on the screen that he took to the house. He caught a couple of passes in this game and was able to pick up some good yardage. So they're using him as a pass catcher a little bit more so than they have in the past. And we know what he can do on the ground. Thought he was solid in both aspects in this game for the Titans. And really right now, probably their most consistent football player on the offensive side of the football. In my notes, I put the Titans have to do a better job of getting their wide receivers involved. Now, I don't know if that's a Marcus Mariota thing. I don't know if that's your offensive coordinator not doing a good enough job of getting guys involved early and often, or what the situation is. I don't know who to really place the blame on here, but I just know that Adam Humphries and Corey Davis aren't getting enough targets. They're not getting enough opportunities. And I know Delaney Walker is back, and I know you want to feed Derrick Henry, and you got all these other guys that you can spread the football around to. But Corey Davis was emerging into a number 1 wide receiver at the end of last season, and you needed to continue to expound upon that, and you haven't. You kind of hit a kind of a stalemate with him right now because he's not getting enough targets. Adam Humphries was brought in to be a guy to win immediately in the slot and be a high volume pass catcher for you. A guy with 75, 80 grabs in the slot, a chain mover. He's just not getting enough targets. For whatever reason, again, I don't know the reasoning, and I don't know where to place the blame specifically. I don't know if this is an offensive coordinator thing or if this is a Marcus Mariota thing. I just know they're not getting enough opportunities. They're not getting enough targets. And this offense, and I knew this was going to happen. I talked about this last week. I said, look, don't overblow the Titans scoring 43 against the Browns. I told you my problem with the Titans has been and always will be, as long as Marcus Mariota is their quarterback, is that they're Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. They can raise their level of play to meet the level of competition, but they're going to also stoop down to the level of competition at times. Not to discount the Indianapolis Colts because they've always struggled with them. However, this is a great opportunity to turn the page and say, you know what? We're not the same Tennessee Titans. We're not going to come home and lay an egg and only score 17 points. We're going to score 27 and win this ball game. And they had every opportunity to do so, and they didn't. They scored 17. They lost this football game. And it's the same old Tennessee Titans to me. And this was exactly what I expected. And I even predicted that last week. So, same Titans to me. I think they need to get their receivers more involved, though. Adoree Jackson. So I know this isn't a big deal, but I have to make mention of this because this is one of my pet peeves when I watch football on a daily basis is you get guys who make a play and they want to let you know about it at the cornerback position. My thing is if you didn't make a play, don't wave and say no and wave your little finger, or in the case of Adoree Jackson, you spread his arms out and start running like a little airplane like, nah, not on me. Okay, so he gets the first big pass interference of the game. The dude literally clotheslines Deion Kane at the 7-yard line 5 minutes before the ball gets there. Then has the audacity to spread his arms out and then start flying like he's an airplane. Like, no, not on my watch. I'm like, bruh, seriously? You clotheslined the dude 15 minutes before the ball got there and you're running around celebrating? Are you serious right now? Like, man, you should have hit him with the flag. Don't just throw the flag. Hit his ass in the back of the damn helmet with the damn flag for that dumbass shit. He deserved a PI for that. And, of course, that set up a scoring opportunity early in this ball game. And then finally, Cairo Santos missed a 45-yarder that I thought killed all the momentum in this game. And you got to have that. And in a game like this where it's nip and tuck, it's close, you know it's going to come down to the wire, I need my 3 points. From 45 yards, like I said, 40 to 49 in the league is the money distance. You got to be able to have a kicker that's going to consistently put that through the uprights. Yeah, you kick a 53 or a 55. Yeah, those are the ones you can miss. But the 45s, the 43s, the 49s, the 47s, I need those to consistently go through the uprights, especially with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter of a pressure-packed game at home in the division. I got to have it. And he missed. And unfortunately, they didn't get another opportunity to score in the game. After that miss, that left the door open for the Colts. They took full advantage. They ended up winning this football game. Late in the game, Titans had the football, no timeouts. As I mentioned, Frank Wright's decision to go for it really benefited them there because the Titans simply didn't have enough time. Mariota wanted to dump it down underneath. And I don't, again, Colts probably weren't going to give them many opportunities near the sidelines or down the field to get chunk plays. So he was dumping it down. It was taking too much time. They had to spike it too many times in a situation where they actually spiked it and it set up a fourth down. And that's what prompted the knockaway by Quincy Wilson and ultimately preserved the win for the Colts. Bottom line is the Titans, they're going to be in ball games. I feel like I've got the same thing to say about them as I do the Detroit Lions on the NFC side of things. This defense is going to be good enough to keep them in football games. And I also think that Logan Ryan is your best cornerback, believe it or not. But that's nor here nor there. You're going to be in ball games. This defense is going to keep you around. The problem is, are you going to be able to score enough points on a weekly basis to win football games? And I honestly didn't think Mariota was that bad, but he just wasn't a difference maker. And that, to me, is the perfect way to sum up Marcus Mariota's career thus far in Tennessee is, I know he's talented enough. I know he possesses the ability to do so, but too many games, he's not a difference maker. He's just a placeholder. And in this league, if you want to take the next step forward as a football team, your quarterback can't be a placeholder. He's got to be a difference maker. And right now, Marcus Mariota is just a guy at the quarterback position. And until he takes the next step and becomes more than just a guy, the Titans are going to struggle and stay in mediocrity around 7-9 and 9-7. So another missed opportunity for them against a team that has tormented them over the last 8 or 9 seasons in the Indianapolis Colts. They just can't seem to figure them out. Whether it's Andrew Luck or now Jacoby Brissett, they can't beat the Indianapolis Colts, and they fall again at home this time, 19-17, as the Colts get back to 500 on the season with this win at 1-1. Meanwhile, the Titans blow an opportunity to get to 2-0 and stay atop that division. Now they're 1-1 on the season as well. Got more breakdowns coming your way, so you guys stay tuned for that. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. This has been Lockdown Coverage. More to come. I'll see you guys a little bit later on. Louis T Network.